Fernando's hideaway is headed to Miami, and Indiana looked marvelous. The Canes will try to spoil a happy ending with a stiff defense. And just reading all those euphemisms has my plums buzzing. And if you're a Matt Khalil fan, best order a can of Coke. Actually make it two. Make it a double. Hi, everybody. I'm Jim Watson, and welcome back to Obstructed View. This is our second show. This is the show that is high on opinion and light on research. Just a couple of old guys getting together, actually three of us, and just throwing out our opinions on what we see. Ladies and gentlemen, he's back. America's heartthrob. Of course, you know him. It's Mike Lamb.
America's heartthrob. That's
Is that not accurate anymore?
Well, I'm not. I think it's especially accurate. Yeah, right.
30 seconds late.
So it's show number 2, so there's still some bugs to get out. And the other guy over on the right side of your screen there, that's Tom Catlin. That's my spirit animal. He's pushing the buttons. He's our producer, director, and so, Tommy, try to keep us honest on the clock. I know last week we were two old guys going a long time. Mike, Tom was the only one on earth who actually saw our first show, and he had the red ass afterwards. He told me about 8 things we did wrong. I thought podcasts, you just did whatever you want. He said we went too long, and we sounded like old men yelling at clouds. And I said, isn't that the point? Isn't that what a podcast is?
Right. That's I don't understand why he's so worked up about that. That's exactly what we were going for.
Because he's a multi-Emmy winner, that's why.
I
read this disclaimer last week. I have to read this disclaimer every week because my wife makes me, because she still has a career. The views, opinions, and ideas expressed by the host are mine alone and don't reflect or represent the beliefs of my wife and children, who are decent and honorable people, who also are forced to suffer my existence. Sincerely, Waddy's wife. So now she's off the hook. All right, let's get right to it, Mike, because last week I took too long to get into you. You know what we're going to talk about? We're going to talk about the semifinals. We're going to talk about the Indiana-Oregon game, which was the Peach Bowl. And I think the last time the Peach Bowl had this much attention, Pepper Rogers was coaching the Rambling Wreck. Wouldn't that have been about right?
Yeah.
I didn't even know the Peach Bowl still existed, but apparently it does. So, all right, so here's the deal. So Indiana, Oregon. So they played October 11th in Eugene, and Indiana beat them 30-20. It wasn't even that close. They had guys out of the game. They were running the ball. So Oregon for 8 weeks, begging for a rematch. Give us another shot. They didn't get our best game, even though it was on our field and we were healthy. We're better than this. We're better than this. And it took all of one play for them to poop their diaper on a pick 6. I'm not sure what Dante Moore was thinking, but there was no doubt who was going to win this game 5 minutes after it started.
Well, this is a rematch, unlike many that I've seen in the past, where you figure out what you did wrong and you address it and it becomes a closer game. What really transpired was Indiana has improved so much as a team, and that's what they do. Curt Cignetti's whole thing about I'm going to tear you down and tell you what you did wrong obviously is working, and that's, I think, the growth mindset around Indiana football.
Yeah, so 3 touchdowns in the first half after that pick 6 by D'Angelo Pons. So halftime, it's 35-7. I was sitting in a local sports bar, if you can believe this, with an IU graduate, and I've known this guy for a while, and he's one of these guys now that we're all realizing they've been out there all along. I was shocked to find out that Indiana has the largest fan base in the country. I would have guessed 10 schools before that, starting with Ohio State and Michigan and Notre Dame and Alabama. It seems like you can't go 5 feet without running into a Bama fan. Did you know there were this many IU fans out there?
I knew there were a lot, but I always had presumed that North Carolina, I thought they had the largest alumni base. But if you think of it, and it's very prominent, and it's one of those things that programs will say, what is USC's niche? Well, they have that alumni base. What is Notre Dame's and all that? But I think because Indiana has flown under the radar so long, right, that nobody knew. Maybe you knew Mark Cuban went there, but that's it, right?
I didn't know that either. I saw him on the sideline. I go, what's he doing there? Of course, he comes out of the woodwork now. Yeah.
The fascinating part of this to me is the paradigm shift with Indiana football psychologically. And I look at that not only from the alumni, but from the players. And I think that's what is the secret sauce for Cignetti. He understands the psychology of this. He knows where the mind of a 19-year-old is and how to address that. He's just different in what he does, and that's why it has been successful. We haven't seen anything like this in college football in, 40, 50 years. I haven't, and I've been pretty close to the sport. So to me, that's the difference, the differentiator. It's the psychology that Cignetti has brought to the school and to the team.
Yeah, and so the lesson for me, the takeaway on this thing is for the folks in Eugene, hey, know when to say when. It reminded me when I was in high school, Mike, I had a crush on this girl, and I shared a room with my brother, so of course I told him I liked this girl. My brother was 2 years older than me, but only one grade in front of me. So he's like, oh, you like her, huh? She's having a party this Friday. We should go. So we went, and I'm at the party, and after a while I said, hey, where's the girl? And where's my brother? And I go outside, and my brother's tongue wrestling with her in the front seat of my car. So, of course, I pull him out and have a heart-to-heart with him, saying, this is my girl. What are you doing? Hey, all right, we all go back into the party. About an hour later, I look up, hey, where's that girl? Where's my brother? And I went outside, and now they're in the back seat. So you got to know when to say one. I should have stopped after the first one.
You were just mad that it was your car.
Yeah. It was my car. It was the blue Capri. Yeah, I never got in the back seat again. Yeah.
Well, that's
all right.
That's an interesting college football analogy, Jim.
Yeah, I might have pulled a hamstring reaching that far, Mike.
Yeah.
All right, what about, before we move on to the other game, dude, Mendoza's unbelievable. Fernando Mendoza, when I first saw him, I'm like, well, he's kind of a geek. Maybe he's a system guy. He doesn't have a huge ego, so he's going to make the throws. He's going to do his primary, his secondary, his tertiary, and then he's going to dump it off. But look at this. This guy goes 17 for 20, $177, 5 touchdowns in the semifinal, 5 touchdowns without a pick, even out a 21-yard run. The 2 playoff games, he's 31 for 36, 369 yards, 8 touchdowns. Mike, he has more touchdowns, 8, than incompletions, 5. Listen, I don't know what all that means, but I think he's pretty good.
It means that he is extremely accurate. So there's usually what happens in like a draft board, and like, well, he's accurate, but his decision making is not good, or he can manage the team and he's not that accurate, or whatever it is. I think he's got it, and a lot of those completions, see, they're not a little bubble screen where you're just dumping the ball off. He's throwing it down the field, which to me is such a weapon on third down. If you're quote unquote behind the sticks, right, and it's 3rd and 8. I don't see that being a problem for him because of his accuracy. And then the other part, mentally, where he's at. Now, I sent you an article that they did on him in the Wall Street Journal, and they talked about him. When he transfers, he's already got a degree from the Haas Business School at Cal, so he's got that done. He gets to go out and focus on this. I think he's bright. Let me tell you what, it's the one time I would want to be a GM picking first in the NFL draft. We'll just put it that way.
Yeah, because nobody's going to second guess you, right? You got to take it. So he's a Raider.
It's not that, because I don't see a lot of holes in his game. Do you?
No, that's the thing, is every time I watch him, I keep thinking, oh, he's a B or he's a B plus. After this game, I said the same thing you did. Now I don't want to get carried away, because we saw Joe Burrow and all these guys do great in college, and then there's that big learning curve when they get to the NFL, because you don't know how one game's going to apply, and you don't know systems and coordinators and opposition. All that stuff has to be played into it. But yeah, he's tall enough, he's smart enough, he's got a great arm. His receivers deserve a lot of credit, Mike. He's throwing into one-on-one. Guys are covered. He's throwing, and they're winning the ball in the air, so they're making him look good too.
There's a name for that learning curve that you're talking about getting into the NFL, and it is the Raiders, Bengals, and Jets. So if you get drafted by one of those teams, you're going to have a hell of a learning curve. Yeah, it's
Right.
Look, I knew Sam Darnold could play. I knew Joe Burrow could play. If you want to go through all that, it's just they get to these bad organizations. And so, Fernando, here's what's going to happen: terrible culture at the Raiders, complete confusion. Yeah. But hopefully, he can overcome that.
Yeah, let's hope so. All right, let's talk about the other game, which turned out to be the Fiesta Bowl, like anybody cares anymore. They just call it the semis. Miami and Ole Miss. Kane score with 18 seconds left. They win at 31-27. So now Miami gets a chance to play for the national championship for the first time since 2001. You and I are old enough to remember those great old Miami teams that were just insane. They've done the documentaries on them. But this team, and now with a veteran quarterback in Carson Beck, I was really impressed with their defense against A&M and Ohio State. On this night, I was really impressed with their offense.
Well, if you look at Miami, I don't think there's any argument against their athleticism. And I will say this, which I felt about Indiana going into the Ohio State game. Ohio State clearly has better athletes, but Indiana is a quote-unquote better team, if you will, for whatever reason that is. And that's how I see this matchup coming up as well. For Miami, it's a renaissance, and Mario Cristobal to have done what he's done, and he's very edgy about talking about the U being back and all that, because this is a team that he has cast in his own image. And if you think back to those Miami teams, they weren't the most savory team as far as image.
That's what we loved about them, because you got Liberty City, and it's a dicey area, and it's an old stadium, and then these guys doing the George Jefferson walk on the field after they make catches, and guys getting up there getting more yards in personal or celebration penalties than they were in points on the board, and nobody cared. They're on the sideline. You got rappers everywhere, the place going crazy. I mean, it was a scene.
You just gave me a flashback to being at the Orange Bowl in the 90s and what that was like. There are those things about Miami. It's a great university. It's got all those things, and they had de-emphasized football, and they found out it didn't work. A lot of other traditional powers try to de-emphasize football, and they understand that their alumni base is not going to stand for it. They were one of them, and to their credit, they made the commitment to it, and look where they're at. Look, I don't know what's going to happen. Anything can happen in a college football game, but I just know that for Miami to get back, listen, they were on the edge of not getting into this tournament, if you recall.
Yeah, very lucky. But nobody's talking about that anymore. Nobody outside of South Bend says it anymore.
And I remember, it's flawed in my opinion how they get these teams together. So for JMU to get in, I mean, I get it, it's a conference tie-in, but for Miami, more than a puncher's chance, and that's all they had at the beginning of this tournament in most people's estimation.
All right, we just heard the bell, so I'm going to ask you for a call. By the way, in the semifinals, I crushed it. The only thing I missed was I had the under in the Miami game. It went over by 3 points. All right,
hey, before you do that, I did a little work. And so we're going to use it. We got sound from Cignetti on the drinking a beer, and your guy Mendoza.
Great.
So,
yeah, this is Cignetti after the game, Mike. When they said, "Are you thinking about the final yet?" He said, "I'm thinking about cracking a beer." Here it is.
Coach, I know you're thinking about the next game, but when will you stop and appreciate how special and how historic all of this has been?
I'm really not thinking about the next game. I'm thinking about cracking open a beer.
All right, well, go celebrate with your family. Congrats. Enjoy that beer, Coach.
Thanks.
So listen, the only follow-up question that she missed is, what's your brand? What do you drink? I want to know what the guy from, look, and you see the reporter after, she loved it, right? Everyone loved it.
Right.
If there was anybody in the country who didn't love Cignetti after that he's one of us, man.
Yeah. He's having a Busch Light and a red Solo cup in the locker room.
I was thinking maybe PBR, right? Midwest,
But I think that's the personality that you got. You finally get a glimpse into. I don't think you ever even got that out of Saban, did you?
No.
He was always on script and always very pointed in his comments. And so for him to break character shows that he's human. And I listen, that's what players love about a coach. Having played for somebody that could break character once in a while, that's
Talking
what
about John Robinson.
Yeah, and it's like a human element that you want to get. I mean, I get the whole discipline and all that, and sometimes you have Coach Cignetti, who I think a lot of people don't know how to handle him. I'm thinking back. I remember people didn't know how to handle Richard Sherman because they thought they knew him because of the way that his persona was on the field, and I think that's what people are struggling with Cignetti. But
Sherman.
It's humanizing. Let's go have a beer. Okay. Wait.
Sherman was a different guy at the field. Mike, I was in a sports bar, as I said, and this guy walks in. He's wearing a gray T-shirt, and it's the Marlboro label. But it doesn't say Marlboro. Underneath it just says Cignetti. It was great. So my IU buddy that was with me tried to buy it off. And he's like, how much you want for the shirt? The guy says, I wear it every day. So my buddy, by the way, who's an IU fan, his wife is a Miami grad. So they're going to the game. He got tickets through IU. So he's sitting on the 50-yard line. I mean, what are the chances, right? Husband and wife, Indiana, Miami. Who had that 3 months ago? Nobody. Let me get your guess on the. Tom, you had more sound. You had Mendoza sound.
I do.
What's this one? Set it up for me.
A little bit of who does he give credit to?
Oh, I know. Watch 4 times. 4 times he says it.
Yeah, first of all, I want to give all the glory to God. I mean, the defense played fantastic. 28 points off of turnovers. The Hoggies, always spectacular. And the man up above, did so much for us today and has helped myself and our entire team.
What does this mean for your family, your mom, your parents?
It means a lot. It means the world. And I couldn't have done this without God. And this is just such a great opportunity for my entire team. Like Pat Coogan said, we're a bunch of misfits.
Congratulations. Best of luck.
Thanks so much. God bless.
There it is. 4 times he got God in there. I love it. Remember back in the day, guys that always give glory to God, and you're like, you got a $100,000 necklace on, you're driving a Lamborghini, you got a wife and kids at home, and you're out with strippers till the middle of the night. This guy means it. This guy lives it. This is what everybody loves. They're Indiana. It's the heartland. The coach going to crack a beer after the game. He's thanking God. He's talking about them being misfits. How do you not jump on board this bandwagon? How do you not like these guys?
And it's interesting to know that he's in a spot where he can be sincere about that. And that if that's what he feels now, he's got the platform, and I'm sure that there's some gravitas to what he says. But, I think about I refer back to that article I shared with you about the Journal. His parents were Cuban immigrants, meaning escapees from the island of Cuba. And so I understand what his mentality is, and I understand what his ethic is, and how lucky he feels to be in the situation that he's in. So a lot of people,
because he's hearing it at home from his parents every day, right? They're telling him how lucky he is.
No, there's no entitlement. He doesn't take it for granted, and that's good for him. He has so many things about him, and hard work is one of them, and focus, and he's unique. Let's compare and contrast him with whoever you want, Ryan Leaf. Think of those 2 interviews that they've got. And Fernando is sincere, and I don't think there's a lot of funniness about him.
I love the artwork, Tommy. Fernando Mania, and everyone was calling him Heisman Mendoza during the year because by far he was the guy. Finally, I'll get to the line, Mike. Indiana, and I was surprised to see the line this inflated. The Hoosiers are 8.5-point favorites, and the over-under is 47.5, showing a little respect for Miami's defense. 8.5 in the college football final. I get Miami was number 10 going in, but they're a different team now. I think the line's too big.
I thought that line should be 6, and that's what I thought it was going to be, and to see it at 8.5. But here's what happens. People clearly have finally caught on to Indiana, and a lot of people have been getting beat against Indiana this year. And so I think Vegas knows they're all going to want to get it back now. But here's the deal. Even 8 would be okay. I don't like the hook. It's at all. So if this was 6, 6.5, that'd be fine. Even 7, I think that can end up being a push. But no, there's no way. Indiana's good. I think they're going to win. But Miami, like you just said, you're talking about their defense, best defense that I've seen in college football in a while.
Yeah, they crushed A&M at A&M. They handled
Crushed
Ohio
them.
State. Yeah. And then they kept, even though Ole Miss got 27, Ole Miss normally scores in the high 30s. So, all right, so you're taking the points, 8.5, over under 47?
I'm not taking those points. No.
You're not taking Miami in the 8.5. You said it's too much.
No. Listen, here's how I am. I mean, I would take a money line bet with Indiana. That's how safe I'd like to play it. I hate that line. If you force me, I would take Miami in the points. Yes.
You're going to play money line on an 8.5 point favorite. Why don't you just go play Keno in the corner with all the ladies? Here's me.
That's more my style. Absolutely.
Tommy, we're coming to you in a second.
You're crushing our female viewership.
All right, there you go. All right, Tom, go ahead. You're up.
You're
so
crushing
go ahead.
our
Who do you
female
want?
viewership, saying he's in the corner playing Keno with the ladies.
Our over 60 crowd. Yeah. Who do you like, Tom? 8.5 points. You can take it or give it.
I have not bought into Indiana all season, and it's cost me, so I'm going with Indiana on this one. So I'll take Indiana and lay the points, but the rest of the world should do the opposite because I'm usually wrong.
Yeah, see, Mike just warned you what Vegas did. They got burned on Indiana cement. Now they know they can inflate the line. All those knuckleheads will jump on it, and then Miami's going to make the game close. I take the 8.5 points with Miami, and I play it under 47. It's a lock. It's going to be a low-scoring game. Everybody thinks Indiana's going to score 50 points. Not against this defense. All right, let's move on. So one of the sidebar articles, all this going on, where's the SEC? Right after Ole Miss got thrown out, they tabulated the numbers. Poor Paul Feinbaum was out on the edge of a pier because the SEC went 4-10 in bowls. Is that right? No, hold on.
Yeah,
1-8 in bowls. 1-8 in bowls. 4-10 the entire postseason. Mike, what happened to the SEC?
It's cyclical. I think conferences go through this, and you and I have covered college football and been a part of a couple of conferences, and you see that it happens. I mean, listen. I can go back. I think it's 5-6 years when the Pac-12 looked dominant in bowl games.
Yes.
Well, that conference is two teams now. So for the SEC, here's what the difference is. The emphasis has been on football, and then they kind of got into the whole, well, we need to be fair and look at the Olympic sports and do all that. And, if you think about it, SEC is kind of a basketball conference right now, judging on what happened last year. So to me, I don't want to say they've de-emphasized, but I think everybody else is caught up. Indiana has.
That's what I agree. Yes. I think you're onto it right there. It's not that they came down. It's that everybody else closed the gap. And that goes back to NIL, the pay for play, which they claim is not happening, but that's what it's going on. Indiana all of a sudden came up with a bunch of money and closed the gap. And then, you're guessing, right? Because you're talking to 17, 18, 19-year-old knuckleheads, and you're giving them millions of dollars. And you bring them in, and you just hope it works. You hope it all fits together. And it did at Indiana, and you give Cignetti all the credit. But there's an enormous amount of luck that goes into it. And then you have the Big Ten, which was just obsessed with catching the SEC. They hated, it's just different. And the SEC claiming, that they're on top. They'll always be on top. They've always been on top. Hey, Ron Franklin's not walking through that door anymore. We're not playing Between the Hedges on Saturday night on ESPN. College football now, look, this is what they wanted. They wanted super conferences. They got it. We can't have just one. So the Big Ten's good. All of a sudden, Indiana's a power. The money has spread the frosting across.
Carson Beck took some time to mock the SEC.
Oh, I loved it. It's just different, right? Yeah, as he steps over the goal line. That was beautiful. Because this guy, Mike, and this is another one of these sidebar stories. Carson Beck, right, was the backup on the 22 Georgia team that beat TCU in the final. And then for 2 years, he's a starter at Georgia. He plays really well. And then he transfers to Miami, and they just roasted him in Athens. And, now he's persona non grata. He goes to Miami, and they say, he's sold out for the money. when he stepped across that goal line, you know what he was saying? He was telling all the Georgia Dog fans and one of the Cavender twins to kiss his pickle. That's what he was telling them right there.
Well, not only was this good for him personally, but just think about the stigma when we're talking about conferences of the ACC and how weak they were. And for him to be able to do that, he's the poster boy for it. I don't have to be in the SEC to get this thing done. So for him, and I just do love the comment that he made, it's something the whole team can share, right?
Yeah. I like it. So, Mike, years ago, Mike, I had an old girlfriend. I met her in California, but she was from Bristol, Tennessee. All of my football analogies go back to girls who have left me on the trash heap. So we go to Bristol, Tennessee, and I'm going to meet her family and spend some time. Bristol's right in the point of Tennessee. Main Street in Bristol, half of it is in Tennessee, the other half is in Virginia. Part of the Tri-Cities with Johnson City, home of Kenny Chesney. Any of this ringing a bell?
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
I'm following. I'm tracking. I just wonder where you're going with this.
I'm going to get there. So I remember one of the first days they're having a little buffet on a Sunday brunch after church, of course. And, I'm trying to be my best. And being a Californian, I'm already considered a Yankee. Not sure how, but that's what they call us there. And I'm a Civil War buff, like a lot of guys our age, World War II or Civil War. I love the Civil War history. And I'm talking to her dad, born and raised Tennessee guy. And I said something about the Civil War. And he just looked at me and he said, "You mean the War of Northern Aggression?" And I said, "Yes, sir." I said, "But, it did end 145 years ago." And he looked at me and he said, "Ended? We're just on a break." So that's when I knew that the South was different and that you should never count them out. So now getting all the way back to the SEC, Mike, will the South rise again?
Oh, yeah, of course it will. There is.
You bet.
Yeah, listen, that whole thing is born out of an inferiority complex, and I think that you just touched upon it, right? They lost that war. It is deeply seated in the psyche of the entire region, and I believe that they use football as their way to dig out of that. So, yeah, of course it's going to be back. It's too important.
Football's always been a metaphor for people. Everyone uses it for things. All right, let's get to the story that matters most. Mike, when Tom first came to me and said, "Hey, let's do a podcast because there's just not enough of them out there. There's not enough old guys talking about sports on the internet. Who would you like to work with?" And I said, "Well, there's one guy, and I've told you this before, Mike. I've done football with 30, 40 different analysts, and some are really good, some still learning." Some never get good at it, never get the hang of it. The worst guys are receivers because all they do is watch the receiver on every play. The second worst are quarterbacks because all they do is make excuses for their quarterback and tell you what they did back in the day. And when I started working with you, then I would ask for linemen. And the reason I ask for linemen is nobody knows more about football than linemen. Nobody knows more about linemen than centers. So I always liked working with linemen as analysts. So when he said, "Who do you want to work with?" I said, "You got to get Mike Lamb." I've worked with Mike. I know what Mike does. Mike's a longtime ESPN radio guy. He's the guy. He gets it. He's got the chops. He can bring it. Keeping all that in mind, all of your credentials, all of what you've done, your life experience, can you please tell me how big is Matt Khalil's penis?
According to media
I'm sorry, did my mic go out? Did my mic go out?
According to media reports, 2 Coke cans. That's what I've read. So
all right. So
I don't want to touch that much more. If you
said
understand
touch.
Don't touch it. Don't touch it. But here's the story, because some people are looking at us like, what? So Matt Khalil, longtime SC guy, and then played for the Vikings, the NFL, and a great dude, by the way. I was around him a little bit. I don't claim to know, but he was always a good guy, had a good rep. He marries this girl named, of course, Haley, and they're married for 7 years, and then they get divorced. And she says the cause of the divorce was that Matt's penis is too big, and it caused strife in their marriage. She didn't stick around for 7 years, so apparently there was some experimentation going on. But just to give you a visual aid, Mike, you said it was how big? According to
the
media
reports, 2 Coke cans. Yeah.
I felt really
So,
bad making
here's-
this graphic, but we got to use
Here's
it.
one.
And there's Waddy's prop.
There's
Ouch.
2.
All I can say is ouch.
I'm sorry, can you see me? If that's true, here's all I got to say.
Well, in order to give Mike a little, some props and to make up for this mockery of him, what's his phone number? Because he'll get a few calls.
For Matt, yeah, absolutely. Well,
and then,
listen,
of course,
let me share this. When I saw this, the first thing I thought of was when Lululemon sued Costco because Costco had a Kirkland knockoff of their jeans, right? Well,
right.
Oh, man.
Costco loves getting sued like that. Can you
Of
imagine
course.
the publicity? They love it. So, yeah, it just, I don't know.
That's our first solid analogy of the show.
I could bring up another old girlfriend story,
Okay.
but it always ends in disappointment.
Yes, you
So,
handle
when I
rejection.
Nothing
I was just going to say, you handle rejection better than anybody we know. That's good for you.
Well, if you tap me on the head with a hammer long enough, eventually I'll deal with it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
when I first heard this story, I thought I was getting punked because I'm like, wait, she said that? Because I would pay an ex-girl to say that.
Of course.
And he was upset. I'm thinking, what's he upset about? It's not embarrassing. But then I realized he's remarried. He's got a small child. He's got much more class than I do. And he's not out there in the weeds anymore. So he's like, hey, this is private and personal, and I don't need my penis talked about on the front page of all the papers. But of course, that's all everybody talked about for 48 hours because he sued her back. If he had just left it, you and I wouldn't even known about it. When he sued her back, then of course the media, it's clickbait city. Everybody ran for it, and here we are talking about it too. So I will tell you this story. So
Oh, boy.
when I first started,
Here we go, Tom.
snap in. So when I was working at Fox in Los Angeles, one of the jobs I had was covering the NBA, and I covered the Lakers and the Clippers. And those were great Laker teams. It was packed and all that. So I'm a young reporter, and I'm in the Lakers locker room. And of course, after a game, if anybody's worked in media, and I'm sure you can imagine it, Lakers, when you come in, this 10, 15 minutes after the game, and Phil Jackson would be in the hallway. He'd have a little podium because, he couldn't stand so well. So he'd lean on the podium and talk to the media. We'd all get our sound bites from him at once so nobody would bother him. Then they'd open the locker room. Well, at this time, it would just be right about when the Lakers are coming out of the showers. Now, in those days, the Lakers had black guys, white guys, Euro guys, all tall, all huge dudes. Dude, their shower looked like a delicatessen. It was unbelievable. And it would take me 12 hours of crying softly in the shower when I got home to feel like a real man again. It was unbelievable. All right, let me dovetail to another story along the same lines. I'm covering a Clipper game one time, and I have to go into the visiting locker room, and Charles Barkley is playing. I guess he was playing for Phoenix in those days. And we're all in front of Charles' locker, and Charles sits down in comes out of the shower. He's got a towel on. He sits down in a folding chair, and he leans back and spreads his legs, man spreading like we all do to get comfortable. Not like the Gavin Newsom deep leg bend, where he's doing the signaling, the liberal signal where the legs are crossed way high. He sits down and does this, he sits like this, and he's talking to the media. And because it's a scrum, there's not a lot of room. And a young female reporter slides in front. She gets down on one knee, and she's got her microphone up. And of course, his towel's open. And Barkley looks down at her and says, ever seen something like that? And without missing a beat, this girl, without looking down, looks him right in the eye and goes, sure I have. I got a 12-year-old son. It was perfect. But I will say that the gold medal of all time, because I covered the Rams, goes to the greatest left tackle in NFL history,
Oh, don't
Jackie
mention
Slater.
his name.
Jackie Slater. Tom, you were there. You were back in the day.
Yes.
Mike, It was made of marble. It was unbelievable. I've never seen such a thing. It was ridiculous. And it was, Mike, it was so big it had a knuckle. It had a knuckle. It was unbelievable.
You seem to be really obsessed with this subject matter, Jim.
But Jackie was an awesome guy. Tom worked with Jackie. I worked with Jackie. Came and worked with us.
He's a great
wonderful guy.
He's great.
One of the greatest guys ever. And I'm sure he'd be embarrassed, but somebody had to say it. In fact, in those days, everybody was saying it. You remember Tom, right?
Yeah, one of our cohorts is like, you got to shoot that. Shoot that. We'll send it to National Geographic.
Yeah. One of our old friends who now lives in the Bay Area and works off to check if I can use his name. But he said, Jackie's so classy, it actually wears a monocle. That was his line. So
right,
listen,
we're officially moving on.
You blame it on me, Mike, but when I was working in the NBA for many years, and I would be out afterwards having a beer, or I'd be at a barbecue, and some guy would be talking to me about the Lakers and the Clippers, and he would walk away, and then his girlfriend would say, "So do you go in the locker rooms?" And I was like, "Yeah," and that's where we do the interview. She's like, "Do you see anything?" I knew what she's asking. She didn't want to know if I saw the stat sheet. So I'm not the only one out there who's what would be the word? Mesmerized, bewildered.
Yeah, obsessed. Yeah, I got it.
Genetic mutancy is always fascinating.
Anyway, Mike, if you'd like now, you can talk about yours. I'll give you 10 seconds if you want. You want to bring Sandy on?
It'll take 10 seconds. It won't take 10 seconds. Much shorter than that.
Tom, we could bring Dollface on, but it'd just be the face of disappointment, wouldn't it?
She has referred to it as the acorn in the hedges.
And my wife, of course, works for a living, so she would never come out here and talk about it. But she did pass me a note. Let's see, it just says,
I'll get a photo of her.
that's about as far as it goes in my house. Yeah, there you go. All right, that's enough. We went way too long last week, so I'm going to cut
from
it off.
4 rooms away just said, "Oh God."
It's the internet, so we never run out of that. But I'm sure you've run out of patience.
Let's move on to topic 4.
Do we have a topic 4? Oh, off the grid.
Place,
Let's do off the grid
place to
before we
watch
go.
a game.
Yeah, where are you going to watch? Where are you going to watch the final? Mike, where do you like to watch games?
At home, uninterrupted.
Yeah.
In the Fortress of Solitude. That's where I like to watch.
Cocktail? What's the cocktail? We drinking whiskey these days? I'm sorry,
No,
bourbon.
I'm not imbibing these days, so I was Okay, on the West Coast, right? You want to slam down some caffeine and be really hyper focused on what you're doing. So yeah, that's just I do that, and I smoke a cigar and I have an espresso and I watch the morning game on the West Coast. Yeah, that's my routine. While the bacon's on the smoker. Okay,
I like
so
it.
That's
Yeah. Mike, I understand because after working in stadiums for 40 something years, people always say to me, "You going to the game?" I'm like, I'll never go to another game again unless I'm in a private suite and I have easy access in and out of the parking lot. I've done it. I don't want to stay in the line to pee. I don't want a $20 hot dog. I don't want to sit in a plastic seat 4 hours and watch the cheerleaders during a 4-minute TV timeout. Besides, the coverage is so good. Your TV's at home, huge. I'm with you, but in a big event like it was the other night, I'll go to a local watering hole, get there early, sit at the bar. I'll have lunch, I'll drink a beer, talk to people. You want that community, you want that shared experience. So that's right. Tommy, where are you going to watch it? You going to watch it?
It's sounding like grumpy old men out here. Going to the games, like you said, you're used to getting in for free and getting a great seat in the press box, and then all of a sudden you're paying for everything. And you're sitting in a line for parking, and you're paying $40 to park. But hockey is still great live. So much better live than not.
It's way better live. Yeah, because you can't see the puck at home even when Fox put the trail on it. Yeah.
But I'm guessing our 7 viewers don't watch so much hockey. Football's pretty good live, but you never know where you're going to end up. I'll be on I like the living room couch without interruptions. and just let me focus. I can usually only focus for a quarter or two, so I'll pick it up in the second half.
The last time that I paid money for a ticket, right, big money, was the Rose Bowl when USC played Texas, and I saw you there. You and I saw each other after the game in the Rose Bowl, and I did that because I could take my son. And let me part with this: if I was an Indiana alumnus, I had not seen a winning team in 100 years, okay, then I would probably pay the $4,000 for the nosebleed seat and get it done. But that having been said, otherwise, there's no way. TV's too good. It's just too good.
Yeah, my friend he's got 50-yard line tickets halfway up, perfect. People are throwing 10 grand at him. I'm like, take the 10 grand. Buy a big TV, do a remodel, go to Hawaii, watch the game on TV, and whatever.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Did some work for the Chargers. They kept saying we got to make the in-stadium experience better because the TV experience is so good.
So the only way to do that, Tom, we'll talk about that on another show. It'd be fun to talk about. You got to get rid of all the seats. You got to start making everybody gets a little suite, a couch, a couple of chairs, a mini fridge, and just charge them for it. Right? Instead of having 80,000 people there, have 30,000 all in their little private boxes. Like when you used to go to the Hollywood Bowl or the racetrack in the clubhouse, and they have bars around your 6 seats, and you have waiter service or whatever. You're going to have to lift it. It's what they did at the movies too. When you go see a movie now, it's waiter service. They have a bar. You hit the button. They have a table that swings in front of you with a light. You can have dinner. You got to give me something extra. The movie's the movie. What else are you going to give me to fork up $15 because I can watch it at home? So I agree that, we should talk about that on another show. All right, Mike, any parting words? I'm going to let you go.
I'm deeply disturbed by the subject matter today and your obsession with it.
Listen, you play the cards you're dealt, right? Tom says, football, Khalil's penis. What am I going to do with that? He dropped into my lap.
Don't pin this on me.
Yeah, way to go, Tom. Thank you.
But when we replay it,
Thanks,
we'll
Tom.
hear Mike say something about touching it.
That's going to do it for Mike Lamb, America's Heartthrob, and Tom Catlin pushing the buttons. Always up, Jim Watson. That's our obstructed view. Coming up next on the main stage, it's Peaches and Herb. Enjoy.